Maintaining our wash system is critical to the quality of the job that we do, and I always like to try to keep the quality of my magic water down way below 10. So to do that, you've got to keep your filters clean, flushed through, regularly changed, depending on how much you use your filters. I mean, I've got my fob for spotless water. I use spotless water quite a bit now, a lot more than I used to. I used to fill on the job a lot more. If I'm filling on the job regularly, my reverse osmosis membrane will last me probably about a year, 18 months. My pre-filters, carbon and sediment, will last me probably 6 months. And my resin will have to be changed probably about every sort of month if you're filling regularly. Where I'm not now, my filters I change, well, my RO membrane probably lasts a good couple of years, resin 6 months, maybe longer, and carbon filters, you know, and sediment filters about a year. So if you're using spotless water, then obviously your filtration system will last a lot longer before you need to replace the filters. You need to regularly flush your wash system as well with pure water, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But you must do that. You must flush your wash system through. So I'm going to clear out the stuff in my van and get cracking and change the resin in my DI vessel, and then I will flush the system through. The systems differ, particularly if you've built your own system, but this is the maintenance and the upkeep of an Ionix 400 litre RODI system. So let's crack on, let's get this van emptied out for you. Right, so I'm in here now. So this is my Ionix 400 litre RODI wash system. This is the 40-inch reverse osmosis membrane, RO membrane. My deionizing resin is in here. This is the resin vessel. These are my pre-filters, carbon filter, sediment filter. So what I'll do today is I'm going to take these pre-filters out, flush them, just flush these through, clean them out a bit. Change my deionizing resin in here. So let's just crack on with that then. This is the deionizing vessel. Your resin's in here. Bloody expensive resin. You know, it's up to about 120 quid a bag now. You know, it's pretty expensive stuff. I'm cooking paella this afternoon actually, and I'll tell you what, it's got to be on a par with saffron. Saffron's like bloody gold, isn't it? There's the price of that, and deionizing resin's got to be up there in that league. So let's get this vessel out. So the vessel's out now. We unscrew the top. Now I'm showing you, I'm unscrewing this by hand. I'm not gonna lie, I've had to use a hammer. Over time they do stiffen up, so a little knock with a hammer. Only, you know, take it easy, don't go too bonkers. You don't really snapping off any of these connectors. But yeah, sometimes you need a little bit of a gentle persuasion with a hammer just to get it started, to get it out. There we go. Now what I'll do is I'll take this out there, I'll flush everything through, and I chuck all the used resin into a bin bag. All your gubbins from your resin vessel. Clean the thread out. Now let's empty the old resin vessel, all the used resin out of here. Now I'll empty all the used resin into a bin bag. On like that. Turn it up there, and in she goes. I mean, some people chuck it down a drain or whatever. I mean, you don't really want to be doing that, but last resort, what I do is bag it up and put it in your rubbish bin. That's it. Now I'll flush this through and flush the thread so that it's easy enough to get the top back on after you've filled it with resin. There you go. And there's my used resin all bagged up, ready to go in the bin. Now rinse the resin vessel out after you've emptied it with the dirty resin. Make sure the thread's all rinsed out so that you can get the top back on easy enough. So this is my bag of resin, my gold dust, same colour as gold as well, this stuff. And now my emptied out and flushed out resin vessel, DI vessel, that I'm going to top up with fresh resin. Don't forget, when you do this, pop your gubbins back in here, because otherwise when you filled it with resin you won't be able to get that back in. So pop that back in and pour the resin in around it. Now you're not going to believe this, I've actually, normally I would use a funnel and a scoop. I've forgotten them. So I'm improvising here. Bit of card as my funnel, pop the resin in my bucket and pop it in like this. Not brilliant, but it works. Working quite well actually. And periodically shake it down. Not too much waste actually, considering how I'm bloody doing it. What a plonker, I can't believe this. But anyway, it's working. Meanwhile, 4 hours later, right, we're all topped up now. So we pop our top back on, making sure not to cross thread it. And we'll slot this back in its compartment. Resin, you've got to be careful with it because it's, believe it or not, when you spill it on the ground, it's almost as slippery as ice. You know, it's like little glass beads and it's really slippery. So make sure you clean up around yourself, because otherwise, you know, it is, as I said, it's quite slippery and, you know, you don't want any of that. So now we'll pop our resin vessel that's freshly filled up with new resin back into its place. And you make sure to get the input and the output in the right position, because you get these wrong and it will basically blow resin straight into your system, and that's a bit emotional. So you make sure you get it right. So you've got your input and your output, and you've got your output and your input. So you line them up properly. That is, you've got to get that right, as it can cause issues. I've been called out many a times to the lads where they've done it the wrong way round, and we've got to flush the system through and get all the resin out the tank, and it's like, yeah, not good fun. Pop this back in here. It's a lot lighter when you're putting it back in because there's no water in it. Input, output, screw back in, and we're done. So what I'll do now is whip out these pre-filters. And with these, you've got this little spanner that comes with it. Slots up underneath, it goes onto the housing and takes your pre-filters out. Up like that. And she's out. these are pretty green. Here we go. So I'll empty these out and then flush them out under the magic water. Here we are. Look how green that is. But that will come out easy enough with just rinsing it and scrubbing it with my hand. And there we go. All rinsed out, good as new. So we'll pop this back in now. Making sure you get it nice and square. There you go, pop it up like that, then get your spanner, nip it up, job done. Right, now what I'm doing is I'm flushing through my wash system, my RO membrane, the whole system really. So I connect up to my output port on my wash system and I run the hose around and I connect it into the fill port on the other side of my van, as you'll see in a second, and then when I turn the pump on, it flushes the system as if it's filling, but it's flushing the whole system through with pure water. So I switch my valve on, I open it up, so that output port is now open. Then I turn the pump on, which is pump number 1, and I'll whack this right up. I've opened the valve fully, and you can hear now it's coming out of the waste, so it's flushing the whole system through. And importantly, this RO membrane, this is what it's mainly flushing through. But you can see, look, it's coming through the sediment filters, filling up the sediment filters. The whole system's being flushed through with pure clean water, with fresh resin. This is the output, the reject water. It's coming out of here, so we'll take a reading with my TDS meter. And that's been running for about 5 minutes now, and it's coming out at 45 on the TDS meter. So we want to get this down as low as possible. We'll take another reading now. Now, when I initially set this up and started the flush, the reading would have been around 300 odd. And it's been running for about 10 minutes now. And it's down to 7, which is bloody good. Now we're down to 5, and I'm happy with that. That's pretty cool. So that reading of 5 that I've just taken there on the output of me flushing the system through, that is purely the reading from the RO membrane. So the RO membrane has been flushed through, and that alone, without the deionizing resin, is giving me a reading of 5, which is fantastic. And then the deionizing resin, when you were to use the system to fill up, you would go through the deionizing resin then, and that would polish the water down from 5 to 0. That's what the resin does. Right, it's the day after I did all the routine maintenance on my system, and I'm hooked up here to an outside tap in amongst the foliage there. Can't see it. And there's the hose from the outside tap to the fill port. And then the one below that is the waste, which goes down, and there's a little stream below this bit of decking here, so it's going into there. And this is an awesome fill. If I can get in here and you can see, that is 95 psi, filling at somewhere around there. In here, what you do is there's a solenoid switch here, so I switch that to on. If you listen now, there we go, that's your solenoid switch. So I switch that up, and then that has an automatic cutoff. When it reaches full in the tank, the solenoid will kick in and it will stop filling. Okay, here, this is the valve I mentioned earlier, and this regulates the amount of waste water that you take out when you're making the pure water, this regulates, basically it regulates the speed at what you will fill up your tank. And it by doing that, it regulates the amount of wastewater you will take out, stripping out the rubbish from the water from the outside tap. So yes, when you're flushing the system, you wind this right open to take everything out. There we go, did you hear that? That was the solenoid I've just switched. Now it's filling. And by switching that switch the other way, it kicked in and it stops filling. So, and you've got my resin. There's no leaks, which is fantastic at 90 psi. If there's no leaks, then that's good news. So now let's have a look at what the reading is, what it's going in the system at. Right, here's my TDS meter. A bit dark in here because obviously I'm in the back of the van. So let's disconnect this, the fill at the top of the tank. Little bit of magic water in there. Now my TDS meter, switch it on. And the reading, you can see that, is 0. Result. Now a little bit about the location for this week's video. This is an industrial estate down in the south of England that we clean a number of the buildings here. And this one in particular, Texo, this is a friend of mine that I was at school with, John. John and his wife Ali own and run this business, a superb business. And they produce and design canopies for all types of boats, big or small. Fantastic product, fantastic service. And they've also diversified into the gardenware business. And as you can see, gazebos, awnings, covers, shades, umbrellas, things like that. Fantastic business, fantastic people, and well worth a look. And a number of other businesses in this estate we clean, and this is perfect for us. This is perfect work for us. It's early in the morning jobs, no one around, near enough whatever the weather, long as it's not too bad, but we can get it done, and then get this done by 8 AM and you're off on the domestic. So yes, and kindly John and Ali let me use the outside space or at their unit to record this video on a quiet Sunday morning. That is the pre-filters flushed out, the RO membrane, the wash system flushed out, and the DI resin changed. Now all of these jobs need to be done regularly. They're a huge part of what we do. You know, you could be the best window cleaner technically in the world, but if your wash system is crap and it's not maintained, you're going to do a shit job. So it's all part of it, a massive part of it. Keep your kit clean and running properly, and you're reading below 10. And that's what's good about using spotless water, because it is what it says. It is spotless. It is normally around 0, spot on 0. And maintaining your own kit, keeping your reading down when you're filling on the job as low as possible. So all part of it, a huge part of what we do to be the best that you can be. There's some more videos in the description below. Please feel free to make any comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bully out.